Hey, Lyssa deHart here, and welcome to the Coaching Studio. Today, my guest is Michelle Akin. She is a MCC coach for the International Coaching Federation. Michelle is a coach for creatives who need a kick in the ass. Through her coaching, coach group programs, and community of artists, she supports people to break up with their bullshit and get their art into the world. Michelle is an artist herself, starting off as the original YouTube vlogger. She does comedy and singing as well. Michelle is the senior program leader with Accomplishment Coaching, the coach training program, where she serves on the certification chair for the company, supporting coaches in the credentialing process. Michelle lives in New Jersey with her husband and their gorgeous and hilarious daughter, Amelia. Included in this mix are her two awesome dogs. And again, Michelle, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
And I love this breakup with your bullshit.
I'm glad. Me too.
That's just awesome. So you have a very interesting story around how you found your way into coaching. And I would love to hear a bit about your own journey into the coaching world.
Sure. Yeah. I was a video producer. As you mentioned, I was a YouTube vlogger before that was a term, a YouTuber before that was a term. And I started making videos for really anyone who would hire me at the time, producing them. If you're an editor, you have to also use a camera and know how to do lights and sound. I'm not very good at all of that. I'm a very good editor. So I had to learn all that other stuff. And I was kind of a one-woman production company for a bit. And then I started to get some bigger clients and I needed to start bringing on a team and building a whole actual business around it, which I did. But I chose filmmaking as a major because they forced me to choose a major. And I mean, I waited until the very last possible moment to choose a major. And I took every class in communications, PR, radio, journalism. I was good at all of it, but none of it really sparked anything for me. And video editing was the one thing that I could just get lost in for hours. So I figured, well, I guess I'll do that. But I got hired by a coach named Marie Forleo, who is not, she was trained back in 99 in Coach U, but she's not a practicing coach now. She's more of a marketing guru. And, but back when she found me, I started working for her and I was working on the marketing videos for her program B School, which is now this gigantic, amazing thing out there that is like a household name. In fact, she's so much of a household name that one of her phrases, I found it on a random thing at HomeSense. I was in like a home goods store and I found the phrase, everything is figure outable, written on some random little piece of wood. And I'm like, wait, wow. Okay. So like something that she created has now just become really like that well known. But back when I met her, she wasn't as well known. She had already done quite a bit. And since she was a coach, I didn't even know that life coaching was a thing. And so I got introduced to it by her and I started producing all these videos for her and supporting her with her online content. She loved my YouTube videos and she said, can you help me do this? And so I started her YouTube channel for her. And I was literally the first video on there. It's like I'm holding a camera I didn't even have a tripod. I'm just standing in front of her holding a camera and hitting record, and we would do one take. And now that she has a production studio now, like she has her own production studio and a huge team. But anyway, because of doing that, I started to kind of get the bug and look into what coaching is. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stuff surrounding all of this, but the bottom line is that I was researching life coach training and lamenting the fact that everything looks kind of the same. And it's a little different now, but especially this was in 2011. So I think there were 100 accredited coach training programs at the time, whereas I don't know how many there are now, but it's way more than 100. So I was just like, why is this so confusing? I wish someone would just tell me which program I should take, because I really can't tell. And the moment I had that thought, I got a notification on my iMac that said, you've just, new email from Ali Rodway. And I'm like, who's Ali Rodway? I click on it, and she's a coach, and she's been watching my YouTube videos, which shifted from comedy to personal development mixed with comedy. And she said, have you ever thought about being a coach? Because you seem like an innate life coach to me. And I was like, reply, wow, Ali, wow, what a time you just caught me in. This is not a mistake, you know? So I hopped on the phone with her. I ended up hiring her as my coach the next day. And then I signed up for the coach training program a few months later.
That is the universe going, hey, pay attention.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to support you in this new endeavor in the direction you want to go in your life.
That's funny you say that, because she replied to my email and the first line was, the universe is not an idiot.
The universe is not an idiot. I think we'll probably see that at Home Goods soon too.
Right? I had a lot of fun catchphrases.
Yeah. Well, and then so that's really sort of how you got into coaching. What has had you stay in coaching? Like what kept you here? Because you've gone from, ACC, PCC, MCC, that is a commitment that somebody makes. So what invited that level of interest?
Such a good question. I am very much a on to the next thing, new shiny object type of person by default. That's how I am. Partially ADHD, partially just don't want to actually give anything my full heart, because then I could get hurt, So, and that's stuff I've distinguished now. That wasn't how I thought of it then. I'm like, oh, I just, I want to do lots of things, which is true. However, when I think about 3 years into my coaching journey, the accomplishment coaching program is a year long. And then I stayed on for the graduate leadership development program. And about 2 years into my leadership development program, I wanted to quit. Convinced myself, I talked to my therapist, and if you say all the right things to a therapist, they'll agree with you. So I just got other people on my side, yeah, you should quit coaching. You should quit this company. Don't do this anymore. And my coach, Jody Larson, was, who's also an MCC, and she's a program leader with accomplishment coaching. She just said, I see several things. If you're open to them, I can't tell if you are decided and you're saying, I'm done, or do you want to, what do you want out of this conversation? Because it was my weekly coaching call. I said, well, I want to hear what you think. And and so she gave me a list of all of her things that she was noticing based on knowing me for a few years. And she asked me which ones I was interested in hearing more about. And probably the one I picked first was that this seems like my pattern. Where I get into something and then I decide it's not the thing and I move on. And it certainly was in relationships. I was in a long-term relationship at the time that I think the same day that I said I was quitting coaching, I picked a fight with Justin. And were we married? We were married. Yeah, we got married during my year of training. So I picked a fight with my husband. He stormed out. And as the door shut, I just went, oh, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. I'm just quitting. I'm just giving up. And I don't have to stay in coaching. But something I got from the call with my coach, by the way, I was very angsty on this call and I kept trying to fight with her. And she's like, look, we could just get off the phone. I'm okay. You could do whatever you want. I'm just reflecting. I'm just a mirror here. And, but I heard a lot of what she said, and it all started clicking for me that if I don't stay committed to something, I'm probably not going to be a committer in general. And I could just see flashes of every relationship that I quit too early, every project that I quit too early, just every endeavor in my life that I took to 80%, including video games, Lyssa. And video, certain role-playing video games will tell you what your progress is along the path. And always around 80 to 85, I would just be like, you know what? I got what I came for out of this game. It got a little hard and I think I'm done now. Yeah. And I just decided I didn't want to be that person anymore. And so I would use coaching as the thing that I actually stick to. And not that I have to do it for the rest of my life, but let's take it all the way. Let's take it to MCC. Let's take it to thriving business that I really love before I start to bring in music or another thing that I'm going to go do. And so that was the turning point for me that had me actually commit to staying here.
Yeah, you know, those words, how you do one thing is how you do everything, really, they land really solidly, because I think they're so true that we give up on ourselves often far faster than anybody else would ever give up on us. And I love your awareness around, yeah, I don't, I'm just not interested. I'm moving on, versus also the other aspect of like, what's the benefit of moving on so quickly? Right?
Yeah.
What's that secondary gain? I don't have to get messy. Right?
I don't have to potentially fail at this. I mean,
Yeah, or be rejected, whatever the
yeah,
story is that we create in our mind. Yeah, and that's just so powerful, Michelle, that, that I think that's something that we all grapple with on some level, right? And
definitely.
until we kind of, I don't know, I remember a friend of mine's calling it a bit of a come to Jesus, like you need to
Yeah.
sort of sit down, have a come to Jesus about this issue. And I really resonate with what you're sharing, because I've had my own experience with something very similar, because it's a great default defense strategy to just quit
Yeah.
before we fail.
Yes.
I'm
Which,
going to
like,
break up with
I
you
mean,
first.
yeah, or I'm going to disengage from the relationship, get interested in someone else. This is the story of my entire life. Literally everyone that I've dated, pretty much, I decided to end it in my mind before I ever talked to them about it, got interested in somebody else, and either had them discover that and hate me, or like just removed myself in some way from the relationship, but they all overlapped. It was always overlapping. So
Interesting.
I very rarely had like a moment to myself. I was a serial monogamist,
Yeah.
but never fully in either.
Yeah, one foot in, one foot out, always waiting for the next door to open.
Yeah.
Versus, well, and there's something really messy. And honestly, this is a really beautiful metaphor for the coaching journey itself, which is life is messy. And that self-reflective piece is a part of this journey towards even, I mean, and not everybody wants to be an MCC. I totally get it. There are great coaches who are not MCCs. So I also want to just really acknowledge that. And there are many great coaches who aren't even involved in ICF. And I totally get that also. Yet I think there's a common thread for all really great coaches, which is they've done that internal work.
Yeah.
Right.
And they've looked at their whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not just. And when I entered my MCC process, I said to Teresa Poole, who was my first mentor, I said to her, well, because she's asking me about my goals with it. And on the one hand, I'd wanted the letters after my name. I wanted to be the youngest MCC, which there's actually no way to tell because they don't track ages, which Carrie at the ICF told me, yeah, we don't track age. So I don't know how you can tell that, but maybe you're pretty young. So I'm like, maybe you are. But I wanted that like title from Ego. And which Teresa called me out on. She couldn't even like for 2 seconds hear me say that without being like, well, we're going to take a look at that. But she also asked me about bigger goals. And I said, well, I think whatever's in the way of my MCC is also in the way of my marriage and really loving my business and just like my whole life working on another level. And absolutely, that was absolutely correct. It's also why I dragged my feet around my MCC for 2 years and ended up doing almost double the number of mentoring hours that you need to do, because it took such a long break that I had to like kind of start over.
Yeah.
Because I was terrified. I mean, terrified. Like I even had moments of maybe I don't want my MCC. Maybe it's good enough that just to have my PCC and be good at what I'm good at. And I'm a little too stubborn for that. And I don't think it was necessarily MCC. It was deciding to like next level up, which we have to do regardless of credential.
Right. That evolution and growth. I mean, MCC is really just a mile marker. It's not like a destination.
Totally.
What was it that allowed you to push through that discomfort?
Accountability in other people. Specifically, my good friend and colleague who I took the coach training with in 2012, Christine Sachs. I'm going to give her big props here because she was my accountability partner around a lot of creative things. Mm-hmm. But then she also reached out to me and said, why aren't you using me for accountability around your MCC? And I was like, well, probably because then I'll actually do it. You know? But yeah, I don't think I don't think I would have done it when I did it if she hadn't just been like, I don't need a lot in terms of being pushed. I need nudges. Like, dude, I could have one person be like, I really like that type of video you did last week. Are you going to do more? And I'll do 5 more just because one person said it. So it doesn't take a lot, but she's not scared of me. She's not seduced by my charm or like whatever good reasons. Like a lot of people
like
in
your
my life.
Bullshit.
Yeah, my bullshit. Yeah, she don't buy it. I think you have to have key people in your life that don't buy your bullshit, because it's fine to have some people who do, and we certainly need soft places to land, and we need places where we don't have to perform or show up to offset all the places that we do. But we definitely need a solid like 5 humans that just don't buy it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the world is filled with people who will go, oh, you're doing great, Michelle. Like, you don't need it. You're fine just the way you are. And it's not that they're disingenuous. It's just they're busy with their own lives. And I think that there's, and I honestly, I think we think so much about our own lives. We assume everybody else is thinking about our life the way we do, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I agree with you. I have probably a good, solid 4 to 5 people in my life who will call me out on my BS. And it's been crucial. Like, that is such a generous place to come from, because I know they love me. I know they want me to be successful, but they're not all that attached to what success looks like. They're much more attached to, I'm noticing a pattern here. Like, and it's so funny the way our patterns show up. Like, mine isn't necessarily running away from one thing, but it is like running towards many things. And so I have so many pokers and so many fires. And then you're just like juggling so fast. You're just like, I feel
you can't even juggle. You can't even, you have to drop things then.
Yeah.
You have to be dropping a lot, actually.
Yeah. So how do you do that consciously versus just accidentally dropping balls everywhere you go? Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is that, having those people who, I love how you said, sort of a ninja accountability. Like, I don't need a lot, but a little poke here, like, like that. Do this.
Yeah, it's enough.
Yeah. Yeah. What is keeping your, what is this coaching journey that you're on? Like, where do you see yourself on it? And what is the place that you're sort of focusing on heading with your coaching?
Well, a while back, I noticed a lot of people leaving coaching because they couldn't be a parent and do creative work and do this. And I think when I decided to stay, I made a really clear decision that I want to be the example of integration and being able to have it all, not having these things in opposition to one another. Mm-hmm. So my journey right now is discovering what it actually looks like to do all of those things and be all of those things. And it's really challenging because it requires asking for a lot of support and being really clear what you need and planning ahead and basically everything I'm bad at. So I'm like really bad at it. Yeah. Even people I've paid, I feel bad asking for things. It's that built-in, I should be able to do it myself. Mm-hmm. Nonsense that when my friends do it, I yell at them and want to shake them, but that's because me too. So asking for things and being clear and creating agreements with people has been revolutionary for me. And I'm very aware of my limits with it. Like, for example, I said that I would have this song I've been working on done by tomorrow. I realized, and I looked down at the calendar today on my Apple Watch. I was like, oh, that's tomorrow. And I've been sort of like, yeah, it'll get done in the back of my mind, but now it's tomorrow. So I reached out to my mother-in-law and I asked her if she can take the baby tonight. She can. Baby, she's 5, but I'm not a baby. She's a baby. She's my baby. And then I texted my sister, because this office is in my sister's house. And I texted her and said, hey, what's going on in the house tonight? I was thinking of staying late and working on this song. I would need the AC off. I would need no laundry, because I noticed she's doing laundry today. I'm like, oh, I can't. It's the laundry room is right next to my office. Like, you can't do laundry. And her son's bedroom is right above me. And sometimes it sounds like he's doing aerobics in his room. So
he probably is.
Yes. Just jumping around. I don't know. I was like, I can't have any of that. So like, what's happening tonight? And she was like, actually, I have to take him to this place at 5:00 and we won't be home till 8. I'm like, All right. I was just making lunch and remarking on how I left that to chance.
Mm.
So speaking of growth, like I was just going to leave it to chance, whereas I could have planned what day I'm working on this many weeks ago, or I don't know, something. So
Yeah.
I'm still leaving a lot of stuff to chance, and I'm still not totally designing my life, but I'm working on it. It's
Mhm.
moving in the direction it needs to. So the people I'm working with are creatives who are not as far along on the journey as I am, or some of them have the same amount of experience on YouTube, but maybe haven't been in personal growth or healing work. I've been in a lot of healing work as well as the growth work. So, I mean, they're both growth, but um, so I feel I'm leading a charge, and eventually where I see it going is that my main thing becomes my music. I offer coaching, but it's kind of velvet rope one-on-one, which it already is that, honestly, the people who can actually afford to work with me one-on-one. And then my group programs grow to much larger numbers, which is something I'm actively working on. I'm running a group right now of creatives, and I'm going to relaunch it in September and try to more than double the people in it, so that eventually it's in the hundreds, not the tens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is really good also, I mean, for people to hear, because I think coaching is a really interesting thing. And I think there is a lot of misconceptions around how we build a business. And it isn't anybody who's an overnight success, typically, not always, but typically has a whole lot of background of stuff that they've done leading
Yeah.
up to that overnight success. Very rarely does somebody, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but for a sustainable long-term success, I haven't seen anybody who does that with just sort of accidentally stumbling into it. Like there's
Same.
a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I had been building a YouTube audience and a Tumblr following for 7 years before I became a coach. So I got 7 paying clients in my first 10 days of being in training.
Mm-hmm.
Paying me.
Leveraging relationships you'd already created.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a huge network. So, and it was a novelty. Everyone's like, you're a coach now? I'll talk to you. I know a friend who wants to talk to you too. I was inundated with requests for my first year and change. And that eventually, wore out, and I needed to go create new networks and like keep going and keep generating. But there's people in my group right now that have been following me since before I became a coach.
Yeah. And I think that it's really interesting too, because the thing that shows up, the thing that I see a lot is that people think of coaching and selling their coaching as it's like it's sales. And people don't want to be a salesperson. And I really look at it quite differently. I really see it as relationship building.
Yeah.
And so how are you intersecting with people and becoming somebody who they know?
Right.
And that's a whole lot of work that maybe you're not even, to your point, you may not even be talking to them personally, but the vlogging, right?
Yeah.
Like you're out there, you're sharing value, you're really communicating a story or sharing a perspective that then aligns with where other people are and what they're looking for. And
Right.
it's not as like, I don't know, I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to take a new person on LinkedIn. And I know for myself, I get like LinkedIn requests to be connected. And as soon as you say yes, you get a download of advertising
Yeah.
from the person, and I get I don't know, the desire not to have that happen because it's so inauthentic. And I think what you're talking about, which I really hope new coaches hear, is how do you start where you are building relationships?
Yeah.
Communicating what is important to you. That stuff might change. It's not like you're locked in for the rest of your life, right? Like, I mean,
Well,
you
it's
can,
like Taylor Swift. She started out in country / pop, and then the one album that she put out was fully a pop album, 1989. And then she did this other thing that was like super dark or darker, or more like edgy, which I love. Is my favorite album is Reputation. But she keeps changing her vibe, and it's
right.
like, the true fans are going to go with you, and it's okay if they don't, and you'll get new people then. And I mean, I've changed my vibe multiple times over the years, and thankfully I had the example of seeing people like Marie Forleo or some of her contemporaries like changing their brand, completely revamping their website, changing their names. And so I got to see, oh, right, you can do that and you're not going to die.
Right. Right. But you're continuing, but I mean, we still leverage the stuff that we built the foundation with, right? Because those are relationships that have been built. You don't have to like wipe them off the face of the internet, right? Like as if
which
you could.
I wanted to, I think, took the opportunity of getting married to change my name, not because I wanted to change my name, but because I wanted to wipe the slate, which was silly. It was silly in retrospect. It was like, well, now I just kind of lost something. Like I actually lost something when I did that. And I didn't lose the email subscribers or the YouTube subscribers necessarily. Like, they're still there. Not that I'm putting content on those channels, but I did lose something when I changed my name. And I've thought about hyphenating or changing it back just to like get that part of my identity back. Because my last name was Vargas, and I'm Puerto Rican. That's like my heritage, like, so people would hear my last name and speak Spanish to me and like know that that's something about me. And now that's gone. And so our many years of videos, they still exist. But if someone looks up Michelle Akin, they're not going to find Michelle Vargas,
Yeah. It is really interesting. So I got married many years ago. I'm actually celebrating my 23rd wedding anniversary this year. So yes, still friends. But when we got married, I did not change my name for the reason that you're talking about. At about the 15-year mark, when I decided I was going to move up to the Pacific Northwest and was shutting down my private practice, I decided I would change my name, and then I hyphenated. And then it was very long, but I did have, it's like, I don't fit in all the boxes anymore. I'm running out of like little spaces for letters, but it was that sort of evolution. And now I'm really comfortable as Lyssa deHart, but man, I needed that shifting tide to kind of go with my shifting experience of myself.
Right. Is deHart your maiden name or your married name?
Oh, it's my married name, but I was Lyssa Danahy, and then I was Lyssa Danahy deHart for many years before
deHart. It's kind of fun to say.
At 15, he was a keeper, so I figured I would,
Well, honestly, like my name got shorter. I went up in the alphabet considerably. So that was nice. For many years, my friend Grace in particular, who was my comedy partner, she would still call me Michelle Vargas up until a few years ago. Now, and then she like stopped. I mean, I get it. I have my friend Emily got married, and I still call her by her maiden. She has 2 kids. I still call her by her maiden name because it was just like we would call her last name.
It rolls out of your mind. It rolls out of your mind so easily. What do you think? I'm going to go back to the coaching because I'm really enjoying this. And I also, I think it's, I'm curious about what do you see as sort of the misconceptions, because you work at a coaching school, so you see new people coming into the coaching industry. What do you see as some of the biggest misconceptions, maybe 1 or 2 of the misconceptions you see new coaches coming in with?
I think the most basic one is that they think they have to know like the content. If they work with a hedge fund client, they need to know about hedge funds. If they work with a video producer, they need to know about video production. And in fact, as I'm sure you know, it's easier when you don't know what they do.
Not as much of a hook if you're not an expert already. Yeah.
Right. It's extremely difficult for me with my musician clients or my YouTube clients and even the coaches I work with now, for me to not devolve into giving advice and telling them what I think, especially when they want to know. That's even worse. I need your opinion. And like, you don't die if you give it, if it happens. It's like, it's okay, but also takes away from the magic of what actual coaching is. So I think new coaches think that. So that's number 1. They also think that, and this is sort of like if you thought you could read about riding a bike and then do it, they think that they can academically understand this.
Speak more to that. That I think is
so critical. Yeah, they think like, I don't want to go get a practice client or even get a paid client right now because I'm not good enough yet. I'm not ready yet. And I'm afraid I'll hurt somebody, or I need to study more. I need to be in this program longer. And I say, well, you know, this is kind of actually a really funny metaphor. When I was younger, for whatever reason, maybe because my mom went back to work or something, no one ever taught me to ride a bike. Or maybe I was uninterested. I don't know. But I got to a particular age. It was far beyond most kids already knew how to ride their bikes. And I didn't even have a bike. I didn't know how to ride one. And my sister Donna had this blue banana seat bike. It was really cool. And I would go out in the backyard every day and just try to balance on it while not moving, which I have found out is a bit of an extreme sport. That's a thing people do. It has a name. I can't remember the name. But I used to try and balance on it while staying still, because I thought that in order to ride a bike, you have to be able to balance while staying still. And that's not true, obviously. Like the movement forward is the thing that creates the momentum, that creates the balance, right? And so that's coaching. You can't stay still and expect to learn how to do this. You have to coach people.
Yeah, it's really, I love the analogy of the bike. And I also really love the thinking of this is an intersection between two people, and we're so habitualized in how we tend to intersect with other people. It's so easy to default into that. And kind of going back to your earlier point about being an expert, we want to share our expertise. And so coaching, if you don't practice learning how to listen, if you don't practice how to really stay in presence with another person, it's so easy to get hooked, but because your clients are always going to say, and Michelle, what do you think? Or does that make sense? Or, what are some tools I should use? I mean, there's all these hooks that are available to us. And if we don't know, we haven't had the opportunity to practice. But yes. I think that could apply to anything. Bicycles are a great example, but anything that you learn to do well, you probably did not start off doing well.
No, but most people are in a rush to feel competent.
Yeah, it's really
that low bandwidth for it.
Yeah, it's that movement from I'm noticing something that I'm not good at to instantly performing, right? But they're not going through the exploration and the practice. Yeah. Super, super crucial. What's something that you think that all coaches need to hear from you?
To stop obsessing over the rules. I think that there's this, especially in the MCC process, how do you hit all of the markers of the competencies without losing who you are as a human? Not necessarily your personality or your ego, but like your natural connected lens that you hear and speak through. That's everything. That's your entire value right there, is just that you have a unique lens, you have a unique ear. No one else hears what you hear. Listen, no one else hears what I hear. Like we might have cross section with other humans, but on the whole, if we took a whole coaching call, there's going to be a twist or a turn that another coach would have gone a different way always. And none of them are right. So I think people get so caught up in doing it right. And so in their head that they throw out who they are and their unique lens in the process, which could be true, by the way, of any creative work.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm in music production right now. So worrying about what's right. It's rampant. It's just, my mind is, especially because I'm new to it. And so it's triggering all of my incompetence.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's hard to trust yourself.
I think that's a really important truth. And thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing it, which is, I think anytime we start something new, we spend our whole lives. Like I know for myself with coaching, I spent my whole life becoming an expert in therapy, in the type and the situation of therapy that I did, which was really very specific. Complex trauma, PTSD, dissociative disorders, and relationship therapy. So like I was an expert there. I spent a lot of time getting there. And to step into coaching meant that I had to be in beginner's mind and let go of all that expertise. Man, that was not a comfortable
Not
ride.
fun.
It was not even a little comfortable.
I've trained a few therapists in the coach training program. They all come into my mind because they all had such amazing bedside manner, so to speak, with people that a lot of new coaches don't have because they haven't interfaced with people in this one-on-one way before. So there's so much skill that you come in with, and then there's so much skill that is not going to help you. And it's, I mean, talk about kicking and screaming. I feel like, especially, I'm thinking of one of my people that I worked with very recently who was a therapist, and just I needed to believe in this person when they couldn't, because as their trainer, I had to just be like, you're going to get past this thing.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to get past this thing. You just need to keep practicing. You just need to keep hearing the feedback, listen to your own coaching, hear yourself go into that mode.
Mhm.
Just, it's not wrong. It's not bad. It's just that you're not practicing. It's like we're trying to ride a bike and you're like, but how about this scooter? Like, that's great. Good job with your
faster.
Right. Yeah, maybe I'll make an electric bike. See, I'm like, but the whole point was to learn how to pedal, not how to sit still. And and so that's it. It's a big egoic letting go.
I really think it is. I mean, I'm not sure egoic is a word, but I'm going with it because I like it. But I think it is but anytime we're moving from expert to novice, there's an egoic letting go.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think you really nailed it too, because I think for many therapists, we've been trained to be psychoeducational.
Yeah.
And because a lot of clients come to us that are not ready for coaching, there is a mental health issue that needs a level of support that requires a lot of psychoeducation. Yes. And I think for me, that transition, to your point, was that egoic letting go, that I needed to hold the space of the psychoeducational, that I could let that go because I'm working with whole, capable, creative human beings who I could leverage their inside out experience, right? Which is what we teach in coaching schools, so that they can have their own experience. But I think that step out of the ego is a big one for most human beings.
It's rough. I mean, I also think of things like, it's sort of like if you're a sculptor and we ask you to paint, and then you just suddenly you put the paintbrush down and you're molding some clay all of a sudden because that's where you're comfortable. Or like my husband did improv for 12 years on the same team, and then was like toying with the idea of doing stand-up, but first of all, the lifestyle was not something at that point in his life that he wanted to commit to, because it's a lot of late nights and dive bars and nonsense. But also there was this element of, which I really relate to, of like, I'm already really good and well known at being this. So if I go over here now and try to be this, that's going to be really uncomfortable. And so it requires a level of commitment to the end result that he was really, it was less that he was scared to look bad. It was more that he was like, I don't really know that I want to be a stand-up, so I'm not going to put myself in this scenario because it's too much. And he's right, it's too much, unless he was hell-bent on being a stand-up.
Yeah, you have to have a passion. And I think that's really important. Like, that is so key. You can't really, to kind of full circle on our conversation, if you're only going to put 80% into it, it's probably maybe something to consider whether you really want to even bother doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's going to take time, energy, all of those things to make something work.
And having said that, I don't know. I mean, I was passionate enough about coaching to stay in it, but I wasn't like crazy passionate. The same way I wasn't crazy passionate about video editing, but it was what was in front of me. And so I was like, well, I already put all this time into it. This could be my vocation that pays for my creative stuff. Mm-hmm. How about that? Okay, that's the life I want to design. This is the thing that is funding everything else. But that's not the right thing to do. That's just what I decided it was going to be.
Right. And I think that's that place too. Like, I mean, it just is in reflection. I mean, there was a passion also that you talked about of really completing something, to learn that skill of completing something. And you chose this as your something to complete. Yet the passion doesn't have to be about the thing you're completing. It can also be about the process.
Totally.
I love that. I love that. Is there something like, tell us what you're up to as we're coming to a close here in this conversation?
Oh, so sad. Well, what am I up to? So I am in the process of, I mentioned learning music production. It's hard. If I had like a really great creative partner that I trusted and was going to work for me and be my person right now, I would probably have them doing it. But I also think in order to create that person, I need to know something about what it is in the first place so I can even talk to them.
Yeah.
So I'm learning it, even though I've had a lot of resistance to that over the years, and it does suck. It totally sucks. I feel so stupid every time I like sit down with the program. I hate it. But I really like the end result. And honestly, because I did video production for so long and video editing, I do have a leg up on people who didn't do any of that. So there's some intuitive things that I know that I don't even realize are skills because I did some work on sound when I was in video. I have a friend who has a performance space in Brooklyn who asked me if I want to do a show there. So I have all these ideas now about a show I could do, and we could live stream it and charge for live stream tickets. And this could be a whole other revenue stream that I've never thought about before. Especially it combines the internet life that I've had with performing, which I hadn't seen a real way to cross those over. So that's very exciting. I just moved into this awesome new space in my sister's house and painted, and like I have my piano over here and acoustic sound treatment all over the walls, and like it's basically my dream office that I have. So that's really great. And I mentioned I'm doing the program for creatives right now who want to build a fan base, and it's called the Spotlight Series, and it's like about putting yourself in the spotlight and actually seeing your work as, good enough to deserve an audience. Art needs an audience. Something you've been saying a lot. Your art needs an audience.
I mean, and that sense of, art is so personal, whether it's, it doesn't matter what creative outlet you use, it's personal. And that stepping into that, putting it out there for public,
everything.
Peanut gallery. Yeah. The peanut gallery responses that run the spectrum, and just being strong enough to be like, yeah, doing it anyway. Gonna do it because I love it. And
or to have enough support around you that you don't stop, because that's really enough structures that you don't stop. And that's all I'm just trying to create a community that provides structure so that people aren't left to their own devices. Cause I know left to my own devices, I will do nothing. I wouldn't have this business. I would just play video games. I would just do nothing. I'd love to.
Yeah. I'd be taking photographs, just kind of
nice.
Fun, but, and I really appreciate this because I think, again, anybody starting their own business or learning a new skill set, it's bumpy until it's not, then it's bumpy again. And we're always on this learning curve of evolution, self-evolution. So I so much appreciate hearing your journey into coaching. And thank you so much. I'll be definitely putting links below for people to, I'm going to go check out your vlog because apparently you've been doing it for a while. I can probably see.
There are 5 YouTube channels, so good luck finding all of it.
Maybe it'll be my long weekend.
Oh my gosh, it's a bit of a vortex once you get in there, but if you search my maiden name, you'll find it.
Excellent. Well, I am so glad to have had this time to spend with you, Michelle. Thank you so much for being on the Coaching Studio.
Thank you.